Libra, this is your January tarot reading. Just looking at the cards, I don't know what to make of it. That central card, the High Priestess there, I normally say that she's about deeply psychological things, understanding your own psychology and those of others. But she is the female version of the Magician. And I can't help but feeling that you're attempting to co-create. These are times where people are being given these gifts. Have you been given that gift, Libra? It feels a bit that way to me, I'm not sure. Certainly in the past you've come into some information, but it's information of a very practical nature that allows you to act in a certain way. And now you're influenced by the energy of the devil. My great worry here is that you've worked out how to co-create, but you've not worked out that it should be done in love, not in greed. Should be done to get you closer towards God or Allah, and not for what is of this world. It's just a worry I've got at the moment, but it's quite a strong one. In the future, we see you in balance, got the bit between your teeth, moving quickly in a strong direction. Is it the right direction? This is sounding very negative, and it's just that devil, to be honest. We've got a queen. Yes. What leads to the outcome is the Queen of Wands. Queen of Wands is somebody that inspires people, but is prone to abusing people, or at least, manipulating people. And she's cropped up, I don't know if it was last month or this month, but she's cropped up a few times to suggest that you're a little bit too controlling. And yes, that's what this devil and this High Priestess is probably about. The alternative, the antidote to this, is to do things in love. And I don't think you're by nature a nasty person or even a greedy person, but you've not released yourself from this world and worldly things. And if you filled your heart full of love, you could do it. So if you are being that little bit manipulative, it would lead you to being bold, being brave, but probably rushing into the wrong thing, which does suggest that this future direction is the wrong one. Now, I've said an awful lot and we need to get into this, don't we? The energy that runs throughout this entire reading is of the High Priestess. But I've got my misgivings about this High Priestess, I really do. High Priestess, I would normally say it's about deeply understanding your own psychology, but also those of others. But is this a tool that could be misused? Well, psychology could easily be misused, couldn't it? A bit like, hypnotism, could easily be misused. But, I wonder if it goes further. And that is, you've realised how to co-create. You've realised how you can change things within this world by the power of your own mind. And that might sound crazy, but I think this is a realisation that many people are coming to round about now. The world is changing greatly. People are beginning to see how they've been manipulated, and now understanding how they can use that manipulation to create the world they want. but the temptation is to use it for your own benefit. And I think that's what's going on here. I might be totally wrong. The energy from the past is an energy of having received some information, but it's information that is useful, that can be put into action, which does make me rather think that this information may have been about co-creation. Yeah, that is, you've learned how to manipulate the world around you. I really do think that's the case now. I really do. See, what's really troubling me is the juxtaposition of this devil card with the High Priestess. So your current energy is that of the devil. Now, I'd normally see it as unhealthy attachments. But I think we should more read into it something a little bit unsavoury, something that's not right. And, well, you could see it as an unhealthy attachment. You know, if you are trying to use these powers that I believe you've now got for your own benefit, so shaping the world around what you want, be that greed, be that Eshiel encounters, even be that things that you think are for the good of humanity, but you know, you've not bothered asking humanity about it. All of those I consider to be, I can't come out with it, you know, I can't say indicative of the devil, indicative of this devil-like energy, let's put it that way. So I'm concerned that you're attempting to change the world for your benefit. Future, you're going to have this wonderful sense of balance, a wonderful sense of direction, wonderful sense of pace, a wonderful feeling of you know where you're going and how you're going to get there. But in the light of all I've said, is that the wrong direction? Have you got things so completely wrong? And that is my candid feeling. It really is. I'm sorry to say it, Libra. I'm not necessarily saying you're a bad person. I'm saying you've just been gifted something from the new paradigm, but applying it in the way of the old paradigm. Yeah. Now, the energy that leads to the outcome is the Queen of Wands. I mean, she's rather a nice queen. And despite all I've said, I think you are rather a nice person. It's just that you're following a belief system that belongs to the old paradigm, and we've already moved and are rapidly moving into a completely different paradigm. So she is a nice person, and she manages to convince people to do what she wants. But that could be seen as a little bit manipulative. And I think in this paradigm, it's exactly the wrong behaviour to be exhibiting. So it's this energy that leads to the outcome, and I could see how the outcome could be construed as a bad outcome. But I don't want, you know, this using the power of co-creation for earthly things. You know, the vast majority of people, certainly 10 years ago, would have said, well, of course, that's what the world's about, you know. It's only recently that we've been waking up that actually, no, it isn't. It's about humanity, you know. And I think the same goes for this manipulation of others. you know, if I was a salesman for many years and you know, did a lot of sales training, and to a certain degree, well, sales and advertising, they're all about manipulation, aren't they? And the new paradigm is sending us very strong messages. This is totally wrong. Would change things. Almost the antidote to the Queen of Clubs, if you like, is the King of Cups, the King of Love. A king who is in control of his own emotions but understands those of others. A king that's absolutely full of love. A king that probably allows others to occasionally get away with something with him, rather than trying to get away with something on others, because he knows that's a better way to be. But to a certain degree, he's so pure and so powerful that people don't dare do it very often. But this is the opposite, and this is what the universe wants us to be moving towards. And can you see, they're not necessarily so different. The Queen of Wands is a lovely queen, people do like her. But it's the background motivation, which I think comes from a belief system which is faulty. And this sort of fault is the wrong word, because it's really just an old belief system. This old belief system of sort of the world is a jungle, or it's a jungle out there. Greed is good, you know. And I don't think you even ever subscribe to it to those ridiculous extents, but nevertheless it is informing some of your behaviour. But what that leads you to is you feeling like you've got the bit between the teeth, feeling brave, feeling ferocious, and rushing completely into the wrong thing. And I think, you know, if anything characterises this reading, it is this card here. Let's get some clarity. I've said a lot and maybe I've gone too far, so let's get some clarity. And I'm going to get clarity on this devil energy. Is it an attachment, an unhealthy attachment? Or is it, as I've suggested, something that's simply pointing to an alignment, a misalignment, and a misalignment that certainly within this paradigm could be construed as wrong? You might even want to use the word evil here. And the first card of clarity we get is the Two of Wands. That is an important decision to make, or important plans, as it were, choosing between quite radical options. The next card of clarity is the High Priestess again. So, you know, I thought that High Priestess was fundamental, and she is. So it's the way you're using these powers. Yeah. And then the final card is that of the Eight of Cups. You getting disillusioned and walking away. How terribly interesting. Let's look at each. So this first card of clarity, the Two of Wands, it traditionally means that you're considering some options, often quite radical options, such as moving away. Well, of course, if you are considering how you use these new powers, as it were, or how you're going to behave in life, it does involve options, doesn't it? It does involve, should I do it this way or this way? And I think what you're doing, and that's why this is a devil card, is somewhat second nature to you. It's second nature because it's a belief system you've held for such a long time. But it's a belief system that has to change under this new paradigm. Now, I'm always getting into trouble with people posting on YouTube. They assume that because of the title of my channel is magic, and that I speak about magic and have an interest in magic, that I'm a practicing magician. Some of them go further, and I've got no time for those who go down this sort of line of argument and claim that I'm a Satanist, That just shows their total ignorance. But those who claim that I'm a magician and that it's wrong come from a standpoint that is the complete opposite of mine. And their standpoint is that man is evil and that we need to be protected from man's evil. And that is somewhat bound up on the sort of ideas of good and evil, God and the devil or Iblis, heaven and hell, and a sort of pantheon of demons that largely comes from John Milton's Paradise Lost. But I don't subscribe to any. That isn't how I feel. And what's more, they define all magic as being bad because they believe that all magic is used to shape the world in a way that is advantageous to the magician or the person paying them. And in my experience, very little of magic is like that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but very little is like that. The majority of magic is a high magic, an attempt to become closer to God. So what I think you've done is you've been given these powers of co-creation, which is a wonderful thing. But you've gone down that line of thinking that you should be doing it to help yourself, to shape the world in a way that is good for you, when really you were given them to become closer to God and to help others. So that's what I think is at the crux of this reading. Why do you have this value system? Well, I still, and maybe it's misplaced, but I have a faith that you are actually a good person. And I think that you've been brutalised. You yourself have been a victim of manipulative behaviour, and you're now repeating that manipulative behaviour. And the best way I can describe this is with reference to Indonesia. There aren't many expats living here now, but those that do live here, one has to be very, very wary of indeed, because the very vast majority of them fell for some sort of a scam which took away their life savings or certainly left them in a degree of poverty almost as soon as they arrived in Indonesia. And ever since, they've been preying on new expat arrivals with similar scams. Now, I don't want to say what you're doing is a scam. I think it's a little bit manipulative. It's not that bad. But you believe it's a dog-eat-dog world. And you're simply joining in based on those beliefs and indeed experience. And it's a crying shame, really, because I think you are a nice person. Libra, I don't think you're a bad person. And I think the way you behave is because you've been brutalised. But even your behaviour, I don't think is that bad. But there's a hell of a warning here from the universe that it won't be tolerated because the universe has changed. We've got a new paradigm. And you're aware of these changes and you've been sort of seeking out in the past. What are these changes? How can I adapt to them? And you got hold of some very practical information. And that information has allowed you to co-create. That is to shape the world in the way that you would like. But you've got a belief system that it's a jungle out there, that is dog eat dog. And you're using those powers instead of to become closer to God, which is what they're intended for, but to create better conditions within the world for you alone. Maybe manipulating people a little. And it's a terrible shame because I don't think you're actually that bad a person. But yeah, you use people a little, you see. You see every opportunity as an opportunity to use people to get what you want. And I don't think there's extreme greed even there. I think maybe even what you want, you think is for the benefit of others. But you wouldn't know unless you asked them, would you? You know. And that's going to lead you to being very brave, very determined, and probably rushing very quickly off in completely the wrong direction, because you've got a belief system that does not fit this new paradigm. And ultimately you will be punished for it. There's no indication that you are yet, but ultimately there will be karmic judgment on it. The antidote to this, and it wouldn't appear unless it's possible for you. So as I say, I don't think this is you by nature. I don't think people are nasty by nature. I mean, of course, we have psychopaths and we have narcissists and Machiavellians, etc. But the vast majority of people aren't like that. They're simply followers, you know. And the antidote is love. The antidote is to fill your heart full of love. Be forgiving of others. And if anything, rather than manipulate, at times allow others to manipulate you. Because you know that that's a much better way of behaving than manipulating others. So quite sobering, but very interesting if you ask me, Libra.